You're listening to Enjoy It While It Lasts. I'm Herman Faust, and I wanted to go to Disney World. The right people made the wrong guess on whether or not I was going to live to adulthood, and they made that happen for me. I'm going to tell you today what it was like to be a Make-A-Wish kid. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, I was chosen by the Make-A-Wish Foundation and was given the chance to make my wish. My first reaction to being told that I was going to be able to wish for anything that I wanted was for me to ask, okay, cool, why? Why do I get to do this? Well, you're just such a special kid. You're such a smart kid. We want to reward you and give you something, a special event. Oh, so y'all do this for all the kids who are really smart and good, and if they're nice kids, you do this? Well, you've also had a harder time. You've been in the hospital quite a bit. You know, you other kids don't have to be in the hospital and have the surgeries like you've had. So I want to try to make life a little bit better for you since you've already had a little hard parts of life. Oh, okay. So any kids that get sick a lot, if there's kids that are sick a lot, you try to give them wishes? Yeah, well, we also just don't think you're going to make it, kid. If you must know, if you're going to keep asking questions, we do this specifically for the kids who probably don't have that many years left. So, sorry you won't get to be an adult, but hey, you get to make a wish. And I was happy. I got to make my wish. And as you can you can hear by the fact that I'm telling you this story now, joke's on them. They should have given it to somebody else. I'm still alive. All right, so here's how it went down. When you're first being told about it, they kind of try to plant some seeds to give you an idea of what you can wish for, meeting different celebrities, going different places around the world, Disney World being, of course, the most popular one. And for me, that was the only choice really that stood out. Whenever you have a little time period in between the first meeting and then you actually have until you turn 18 if you survive long enough to make your wish. But of course, considering the criteria for being chosen as a Make-A-Wish kid, you're not going to get a lot of people that do wait too terribly long before they know what they're going to want. It crossed my mind, at least for a tiny bit, that I should wait till I turn like 15 or 16 and wish for a car and see if I can get that type of thing. But again, I didn't want to end up being a kid that tried to wait off on getting my wish and then never getting my wish. Turns out, of course, I'm still here, so I could have tried that out maybe, see if it would have worked. But I ended up, as I was deciding what I wanted, thinking about what I wanted, it ended up being like a no-brainer for me. I wanted to go to Disney World. My backup plan was to go to Disneyland. And then they asked you, like, what's the third choice? And at that point, I was kind of like panicked. I didn't know any other major theme parks besides Six Flags. So I remember saying, okay, if I can't go to Disney World or Disneyland, I want to go to Six Flags in Hurricane Harbor or Wet n Wild, I guess it was back in the day. So either way, what I really wanted though was to go somewhere and experience a theme park, experience some big, larger than life place. I didn't really care about any particular celebrities. I didn't care about having any. I've seen some kids now, like since then, in my teenage years and in my adult years, I've seen some kids have some really cool wishes, where they're being a superhero for a day, or just different types of experiences that you could have that might have appealed to me at the time, but I definitely didn't think about it at the time. But if somebody would have put it in my ear, like to say if I could have wished to go to the Super Bowl or something like that, I might have done that, honestly. As it turned out, before long, because again, they don't want to waste too much time getting things set up. Before long, my mom, myself, my younger brother, and my grandmother were all going to Florida. This was my first time getting on an airplane, and I was a bit nervous about it because my mom was extremely nervous about it. She was terrified. Now, I didn't fully pick up on her fear, like it didn't just completely jump to me. I was nervous, like I said, but I do remember like coloring my Power Rangers coloring book during the flight and being amused by just the whole experience of it, that the nervousness kind of went away pretty quickly, and it turned into more me almost making fun of my mom's fear while we were flying. When we landed, something that is a very simple thing felt like a very big deal to us. Having a driver there, standing with holding our name, it felt like something we'd see in a movie when a business person or a celebrity or somebody famous was getting to an airport and then had to have a driver with their card for you to have to go find them. I felt like, oh, hey, we're fancy. We got somebody picking us up. No need to rent our own car. Like I said, I was only 6 or 7 at the time, so I don't really remember driving around Florida a lot, but I do remember that first initial drive from the airport. I remember feeling like awed, almost like, oh wow, they have different. Their trees look different than ours. You could see an orange, lots of oranges, and I'm pretty sure I remember my mom telling us to like we could smell the ocean. And although I, looking back on it, I don't think that's possible. I think you're too far away. But I do remember like it being part of the feeling of, oh, I'm smelling the ocean. I'm seeing these oranges on the trees. I guess it just made it all feel real. And then we get to where we're going. The village that they have set up for all the different Make-A-Wish kids. Again, this is the most popular wish they have, so of course they have a full setup for it. And it feels unreal again. It feels like you're entering your own little, it's its own little magical kingdom in and of itself. The village is what I remember most. I probably have way more memories from there that I look back and smile on than I do of any of all of the actual theme parks combined. Um, so to start, every family gets their own house in the village, and they restock your fridge every day with like Lunchables and well, I'm sure with lots of different things, but Lunchables is the main thing I remember because I remember eating a ton of Lunchables the week that we stayed there. There were 2 playground areas that looked really cool for that I was excited. I was like, okay, we got to spend a little bit of time on this one. We got to spend a lot more time on this one because it's bigger. Turns out we were so booked that I ended up only playing a little bit of time on our last day when we had like 30 minutes before we had to leave to go to the airport. And they had a pool there. So that's automatically going to be one of the number one attractions to all the kids. Hell, even now, whenever I take my kids to different vacations, their favorite thing is almost always just the pool that's in the whatever hotel we're in. So, and that was true for me too. And going to Florida, and I was like, oh, they got a pool. There was a main cafeteria area for everybody would go to for breakfast. There was a train engine that had got it turned into a ice cream parlor where families could go get ice cream sundaes whenever they wanted. I remember thinking that I was going to get one every day. I think I ended up getting 2. And the second one was like a rushed, like, oh, I really want to get another one at least before we have to go. But the main building was the little village center they had, where inside they had a stage area, little auditorium. There was a section that had a couple of computers there, which at the time was a big deal. Not everybody had a computer in their house even. So it was cool. They had, I remember it was a couple of pre-selected programs of like different Sesame Street games or just different Disney stuff and little educational games or websites that they would only, that it was restricted to having, you know, those kid-friendly stuff. But of course, again, it was still very novel for us at the time. The coolest part of the building was the interactive indoor play area they had, including this part where you walk, it's like you're walking through a giant tree, and part of that you're going through a beehive, and they hear it sounds like the surround sound bees are buzzing all around you. That I really liked. I thought it like really captured my imagination, but it captured it maybe a little too much. I remember being tense walking through there, and I would make myself like, no, it's not, it's fine, there's not really bees around you, but I would still have to like kind of gear up to get myself to go inside there. um, I remember, I don't think my little brother liked it at all. He was around 3 at the time, and I do remember him being a little bit freaked out by that, the bee section. um, I don't think my brother remembers hardly any of this trip. I think if you were to ask him today, the only thing that he does remember is the last section they had inside the main building was an arcade area. They had a whole bunch of stand-up arcade games that were, of course, free, and we both spent a lot of time playing different games. Him specifically, it was the Sonic game they had. I don't remember which Sonic. He might be able to tell you, but it was one of the Sonic the Hedgehog Sega games that they had in arcade game form. The inside of the house itself was really cool for us. I mentioned how they restocked the fridge every day, but also having cable was a big deal for me, at least. And they had a whole video library that I remember that part being disappointed that there wasn't a ton. Or like one of the things we watched was The Secret Garden, which stuck so much with me that I have no idea what happened to this day. I probably fell asleep in it, but honestly, I didn't need any video library because with everything I just described that was around us and the days, how jam-packed all the days were, it didn't really end up doing too much inside the house to begin with. Um, I remember there was one night in the week that you're there, that they have Mickey come in and tuck you in, read you a bedtime story. And then one of the days there, one of the evenings, they were having a pool party. And I remember that I kind of snuck off. I don't know if my mom was going to get something to eat or if she was doing something with my brother. Like for whatever reason, I was supposed to wait a little bit, and we were gonna go down to the pool party together. And I got overly excited, and I basically just said, "Oh, she can meet me there." And I went as fast as I could. I also remember I was excited because they had shrimp. Um, and that was something that at the time was I was fixated on. Oh, I love eating shrimp. But I remember that. Oh, this is probably where she was going. I didn't have swim clothes. I just was in like khaki pants. And so now that I think about it, that's probably what my mom was out doing, going to get swim clothes for us. Um, but I ended up going in and just jumping into the pool over and over until eventually an adult kind of came over and was like, "Hey, you're not wearing a swimsuit. Hey, where's your parents?" And then from there on, I sat eating a plate of shrimp, waiting for my mom to very panicky come find me. We didn't. I didn't get to swim anymore after that night. A couple of the nights they had shows in the auditorium. I remember one being different characters where they were just putting on some silly show for the kids. Um, but the one I remember the most was one night it was like a Nickelodeon crew there where they would call the kids on stage and we play either different trivia games or different types of little games. And I was one of the first little group of kids that got on stage and won my game pretty early. And I got super excited because I got to choose if I wanted to pie. You could pie yourself or you could pie your parent. Of course, there was one kid I do remember that did pie himself, but every other kid looked at that. I was like, oh yeah, I can shove this pie in my mom's face. Let's do it. Um, Nobody told me that, hey, it's really just some whipped cream. Just put the whipped cream on their face. I was imagining like a cartoonish, very just slam the shit out of this pie into your mom's face. And so I ended up pushing it really hard and into her face. I remember she was out of all the parents, she was definitely the one that got it up her nose, got it all in her hair everywhere the most. Um, so much so that my little brother got scared. You know what? He might actually. I do think he'll be able to tell you this memory because I think he got scared when it happened. He thought that I was hurting her, and he ran out of the little auditorium area and ran to go back to play the Sonic game because to him, Sonic is safe. Mom is getting hurt. I'm gonna go play Sonic. Sonic is safe. That is actually what my mom was known as for the rest of the trip to the other families. They basically called her the Pie Lady since she got it the worst. I do remember that. I don't remember a lot of interactions with the other people there, though. I mean, we were all involved in our own little worlds, and every family there is juggling having a once in a lifetime experience with, dealing with the fact of why you're there as well. And sure, it's a mixed bag of feelings for a lot of the families that are there. For the kids, you don't think nothing like that, because at least for me, you're used to being in a hospital, you're used to being around other sick kids too, and recognize, hey, some kids that like, oh man, that kid looks like he's got it worse than me. That sucks. But either way, as a kid in that situation, you're kind of just doing your own thing, and especially me at my age, um, took some notice in other kids, of course, but didn't interact with them enough because there was too much other stuff going on for me to worry about even interacting with other kids. So every day after our cafeteria breakfast, we would get in our rental and go to our designated park for the day. I think we had 2 days going to Disney World proper. We had Universal Studios Day in Epcot Center and Gator World Day. Depending on the day, we were either given like vouchers for free meals at certain restaurant or gift cards, I guess, or just cash as well. We're giving like an allowance per day to go along with everything. All right, so now let me tell you about what it was like for me at the different parks. I mentioned we had 2 days at the Magic Kingdom, and I think that was where we started and maybe where we ended. But I do know that the first day, we didn't really do all that much. Let me start by getting to the park. It was an experience just from parking our rental car to taking the shuttle and getting into actually walking to the point where we're actually walking around into the park. Of course, you're all built up. You're building it up in your head. The moment's all building up, and so you walk in, and it's another just big breath of like, oh, we're here. This is it. Um, but then after that, I almost feel like it was very underwhelming for me that first day. Like it was maybe too much build up and anticipation, and then as you're like, there's payoffs, but it's not. You're kind of, I don't know. Maybe I was expecting to just be amazed and overblown from the second I walked in for the entire day. Um, One thing that set us back that first day is I don't if I remember correctly, my mom did not realize that we were able to skip all the lines. And me being such a little kid and my brother being basically a toddler still, we didn't have a ton of stamina to begin with. So our days at the parks were not full days, full 8 to 10 hour days. We would be there for, a few hours at a time each day. And that first one, I remember we didn't just feeling like we didn't get to do a whole lot. And we didn't see a whole lot because we did end up spending a lot of time in one of the lines. I think it was later that afternoon when my mom kind of was talking about our experience that day to one of the other family members that they told her, like we have access to, I don't know, I guess a wristband at the time to let us skip the lines because, come on now. We already know of all the people on Earth, these people are the ones that got the least amount of time to waste. We won't want to make them spend their entire day on their Make a Wish. Their best experience, maybe their last best experience of their life, is not going to be spent the whole day waiting in lines. Um, so that definitely made the rest of the parks better after we realized that. But even so, not a lot about Magic Kingdom stands out to me. Of course, like I remember a few of the rides. But also being that age, I was scared to ride any or any rides that I felt like was a big ride. So I was intimidated, but I still like got my fill of joy from the trip just by walking around and seeing. I liked watching the big rides. I liked seeing all of the stuff, whether or not I was going to get on it. I liked walking up and talking to all the different characters that would be walking around. But still, surprisingly, Magic Kingdom was the of the parks made the least amount of impression on my little brain back then. Don't get me wrong, it still made me very happy. I was very excited. I loved the most interacting with the characters, getting them to sign my little autograph book they give you, and using that just as an excuse to have interactions with the different people dressed up in suits. That for some reason as kids, that just you can't help but to be drawn to it. What I was not drawn to was anything they had going on in the Epcot Center. I remember being very bored by the walking around that day. I remember actually feeling tired from walking around. Whereas, like when you walk around all day in the Magic Kingdom or in Universal Studios, and it feels like I am fresh the whole time. But I definitely got tired and my legs got sore, and I was not really sure what all we're looking at. What are we doing here? The one thing that really stands out, if any memory at all, there was whenever it was like a world of tomorrow, a vision of that, and I remember my mom being impressed by the idea of us having self-driving vacuums, which hey, turns out good on them. They did end up becoming a thing, a big thing. But yeah, if you would have asked me immediately after walking out of the park, like, okay, so what's in Epcot Center? I don't think I would have been able to tell you. I would have been like, man, I don't know what we just did. We just walked around. That's what we did. Oh, you know what? I just realized we actually I'm missing one. We got a park passes to SeaWorld as well. The problem the reason I don't remember SeaWorld at all is I don't we did not get up early that morning, the day we were supposed to go there. I don't think we got to the park until around noon. And I think we were in between all the different possible show times that we could. So we didn't end up really seeing any of the animal shows. We walked around and saw different, the aquarium sections or different tanks, and we saw different animals, but we didn't get there and watch the shows. So, really poor execution on the final end of going to these parks on our end. We did do it right for Universal, though. I remember that day was probably the best theme park day, the best overall day we had there, because that was a day where, because of the type of rides, the movie tie-ins for the rides, I really wanted to make myself ride rides, even if I felt a little bit more nervous about it at first. So I remember we did like the Jaws ride or the King Kong ride, and I remember even like being a little bit nervous and being scared as we're on it, as we're going. In the Jaws ride, it was the fear of the anticipation of waiting for it to pop up on you. In the King Kong ride, for me, I remember like I almost kind of started hyperventilating in the moment where it picks you up on the bus and you're like it's thinking it might either eat the people inside or throw the bus or something. And of course, I'm imagining that happening, and that I had to like stop myself, and then having to tell myself like just to get out of my imagination that no, you don't need to make it feel or picture that you're really in the movie going through this world. Just realize that you are. I have to actively stop myself. But I enjoyed it enough. I enjoyed the adrenaline rush enough to then get, okay, let's go to the next one. All right, let's do the next ride. It helped whenever I was just telling myself, hey, instead of, worrying about how this ride is making you feel and imagine it, look and actually see and specifically with the King Kong part, like as you're close, just look at the details of what King Kong's face looks like here. Try to really focus on the reality of what is directly in front of you and enjoy that part of it. Get a kick out of what it looks like instead of freaking out over what it feels like. I remember my mom being very impressed by the ET ride by the end of it, that they have a personalized message telling you goodbye. Another cool part of that day for me was that was the day we ate at the Hard Rock Cafe. And at the time, this was like the coolest concept of a restaurant that you could ever, little 6-year-old me could ever imagine. They're playing music loud, like it feels like a concert in here. The decorations are wild. There's pictures of celebrities, even though I only know, one out of every 5 pictures. But still, it just, it contributed to the larger than life experience, fitting perfectly in with, but not just the rides. I loved a part of it was just even walking around the park, seeing all the things that look like different movie sets, and feeling like you are walking through different worlds. Our day at Universal Studios really made the trip, honest. It fulfilled the promise of why I wanted to go in the first place, of just making these magical memories. Speaking of memories, I saved Gator World, Gatorland, actually Gatorland. I saved Gatorland for last because despite being the smallest park and almost it was a throw-in filler of a day, that is the park that the most distinct memories for me and our family was made, and it was all mainly due to my younger brother. My younger brother was wild. He was a runner, and whenever we got into the park and we were walking through to, there's a section where you can pet, a snake, pet a baby gator. You can take a picture with them. But he ran over to the lady that was holding the snake, and he just kind of like grabbed the snake and pulled it up to his face and gave it a kiss. No hesitation. Lucky the snake didn't bite him in the face. Then there was a pit. They had like a rattlesnake pit with hundreds of rattlesnakes inside. You could look down into it, and my brother was trying to climb over the wall and try to climb into it at one point. We all very big panic moment. Go, oh no! How ironic would it have been if he made it in? And we got this free trip because this one kid over here, me, is being dramatic, like, "Hey, I think I might die, guys." And then meanwhile, that free trip leads to would have led to my brother's death via snake. That would have been a story. That would have been a story, but luckily we caught him. So the whole day there was a really mixed bag of. So I'm a little boy. I really think it's really cool seeing these snakes and seeing these gators, and you're seeing a feeding time whenever they're all bunched up, and the trainers are throwing them whole chickens, and you're seeing them jump up for them, crawl over the top of each other, fight, and watch them tear open a chicken as two of them are twisting around for it, and but at the same time, I'm worried that my brother's gonna jump in and be like the chicken. So it was a fun day, but it was a tense day because we had to. It wasn't normal back then for parents to keep their kids on a leash, but my mom probably should have just done that anyway with him. My brother also almost made trouble for us on the way back. He was starting to get chicken pox our very last day there. We're supposed to be flying back. He was starting to start scratching himself to show signs of chickenpox, and we almost didn't get allowed on the plane, or at least that's the way my mom sold it to me at the time. And we just had to lean on the fact that we had eczema medication because he did have eczema, so we acted like that was we have this cream that he uses all the time. That's why he's itching. Don't worry about all those little dots that you think are starting to see. But then we got back and life went back to normal, including not too much later, less than a month or so probably, I ended up having another exasperation and needing to be hospitalized. And while in the hospital, I was approached because I was being chosen to be one of kids. For those that don't know, this is a Kidcratic program where he takes sick children on a trip to Disney World. At the time, he did it once a year, and he had, I don't know how many they took over the years. I think it grew and grew. Pretty sure that, or they still do that in his memory now, have the Kids organization. But I was given the opportunity to have a second Disney World trip within a year of it would have been just a few months later, so it would have been really just within 6 months I would have had a chance to go back to back. Even after they knew that I had just received a Make-A-Wish trip to Disney World, they were still going to allow me to be a part and have be part of this one as well. But I ended up declining it on my own. I knew they only had a limited amount of kids they could take, and so I wanted them to take a kid that had not had the experience that I just had. It felt like I would be really inviting bad karma to myself, especially looking back now. I'm glad I didn't take it because I didn't read the fine print, and Make-A-Wish has said that since I have survived, I think I owe them a lot of money, and I would not want to do the same. I don't need two charity organizations being mad at me because I didn't die. I didn't intentionally rip off the Make-A-Wish Foundation, guys. I really meant to follow through on my end of the deal, but I'm still here and more confused about it than anybody else. So I don't know what else to tell you guys other than to remind you that no matter how much time you got, you only got one life to live. So you might as well enjoy it while it lasts.